Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt in Studio West. I'm so glad that Noah Rothman's mom came to his Easter dinner, because otherwise she would have had to eat lamb. She brought the ham. Now, no, I do not like lamb. I've never liked lamb. And you made 3 lambs, 3 racks of lambs. I listened to the podcast of National Review of the Editors, but your mom brought the ham, which is, I believe, actually obligatory for Catholics to eat on Easter. So thank goodness for someone with sense in their mind.
I brought the ham. I made the ham, Hugh. The ham and the lamb together. My mom made ratatouille, which was fantastic.
Okay.
I'm not trying to put her down. But yes, very proud of
you went a little bit overboard on
lamb.
the lamb side. Moreover, I thought as I listened today, how much time has Noah spent cooking that he could have been reading in his life? You realize this is a one-on-one trade-off. Every book you don't read, put down to cooking.
I would love to read more books, but this is a choice. You know, everything's an opportunity cost, and I do enjoy cooking as as a way to vent your frustrations that you get from all the reading. You know, there's got to be some sort of an outlet, and that's it.
Well, I was very impressed with your 3 racks of lamb simultaneously on limited burner space.
Sir.
Let me then turn to the Pope. I thought you were very judicious in not being a Catholic and not having an opinion. Garrity doesn't like the Pope, but we now know why. We've been doing our research here. And the only franchise in the NHL, NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball that did not make postseason play during his pontificate, there was one, the New York Jets. Coincidence?
Okay. You know what?
Coincidence?
Cause. No, this is well-founded cause for Jim's frustrations with this papacy. You know, I hope, fortunately, it's behind us, and maybe the Jets will have a winning season this year as a result.
No, it's going to take Jesus coming back before that happens, Noah. Let me go to the serious subject, Harvard. I was on Hannity last night telling Sean, I want to go full Bob Jones University on Harvard. They violated Title VI twice. They discriminated against Asian Americans for, I don't know, a decade. They top it off with 1.5 years of anti-Semitism, and then they sue Harvard saying their First Amendment rights are at issue. Nonsense. They should not get any money, and they should lose their tax-exempt status. What do you think on this?
Well, I'm not an attorney, but I do see Harvard attempting to litigate this case in public. It's attempting to throw itself on the mercy of public opinion by claiming that if its funds were taken away from it, you know, we'd have all the research that is done by this institution would be sacrificed. A lot of advances into research in Alzheimer's and cancer, medical research in particular, to say nothing of other STEM professions, would be seriously jeopardized, and the United States would suffer as a result. That is a separate question. No, it might be a very serious question, but it's a separate question from the legal issue here, which is whether or not the university did engage in creedal discrimination and ethnic discrimination, which is prohibited by the Civil Rights Act, in particular Title VI. That's it. That's what we're discussing here, and any other ancillary details are irrelevant to that question. The conservative case here is pretty straightforward. Also, the right should be very, very concerned that the next administration will take this precedent and leverage it to enforce and impose its impulses, its edicts, its cultural affinities on Christian universities, on conservative cultural institutions. It's not as though Democrats haven't evinced a willingness to do that previously. Indeed, during the Obama administration, they promulgated a rule that's maintained that lawyers could sue, for example, Hillsdale University because it should be subject to the federal government's broad interventions because it is covered by the Civil Rights Act. Democrats are not above using these techniques to advantage themselves and their preferred constituents, and conservatives should be afraid of unintended consequences. That's one of conservatism's primary, paradigmatic advantages. But that's, again, beside the legal question here. The legal question is very straightforward. Did Harvard discriminate? And it does seem to.
Slippery slopeism is familiar to me. Lots of government agencies say, we can't give you a permit for this because if we did, we'll have to give a permit for that. And slippery slopeism is usually an endless series of negative possibilities. I deal with it here and now. They have got a record. The Supreme Court adjudicated bias against Asian Americans. And we have all seen with our eyes the anti-Semitism. And I wondered, did you see President Garber's March 31st rather pompously titled letter to the university entitled Our Resolve?
I did, but I did not read it. I only saw it. Came across my transom.
It is pompous beyond all belief, but it's about how we're still working on the anti-Semitism. We commit to you this, we commit to you that. I don't believe them, Noah. Is there any reason we should believe them?
We should believe that these university presidents do not want to set their institutions on fire. I don't think that serves their interests. We should believe that there are elements within these administrations, I'm thinking of Columbia more than Harvard, that believe they are captured by elements with whom they are surrounded, particularly in the humanities department, non-faculty administrators, that are beholden to a worldview that is hostile to American values, as defined by the Trump administration and to which I subscribe. And we should believe that they would kind of want help out of the trap that they've set for themselves. I think that's true. What we should not believe is that they are capable of implementing the kind of reforms that are absolutely necessary to safeguard the rights of all Americans. They've given us no indication that they are capable of doing that. They do sometimes give us lip service that they want to do that sort of thing. But it's pretty plain at this point that there needs to be some sort of outside intervention to impose the kind of sobriety that prudent elements within these administrations want but cannot secure for themselves or their students. I think that's about as much
you're right.
as I'm willing to give them.
You are right. Now, is it fair for me to hold up as a parallel not only the Bob Jones University case, but every consent decree over every segregated school system that was slow in desegregating and needed federal court supervision? I think they're exactly on point. What do you think?
I mean, that is a legal question that I don't feel qualified to adjudicate or judge. I will defer to you on that one. And I am very concerned about the prospect for reciprocity from Democrats when they regain power, because Democrats won't be out of power forever. But
no,
again,
they're not out of power now. I think they're running the Office of Civil Rights at the Department of Education right now.
It's entirely possible, but we could very well get a much more activist Democratic administration. I would not want to bequeath to President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez powers she does not have now. That's something that we should all be concerned about.
Are you trying to get people to drive off the road, Noah?
Listen, think of the worst case scenario, and then do not fashion new weapons in the culture war that you will hand over to your enemies. That is
that's what Mitch McConnell told Harry Reid. But there's at some point you got to rest on the Constitution and trust the free exercise clause to stop the leftist march. And I know the slippery slope, but AOC, by the way, is the front runner. We have 30 seconds. I think she's the front runner. Do you think she's the front runner?
I think she might be. She's not to be underestimated as a political actor. She's got her finger on the pulse, especially of Democratic politics. But she's not to be overestimated because she seems only to have her finger on the pulse of Democratic politics. She's very capable of securing the nomination for herself. I do think so. And I think if she were to spend 6 years in the Senate taking out Chuck Schumer, she would be an unstoppable political force. But I do think she's pretty green and has not demonstrated an ability to speak to Americans outside the far-left progressive faction.
She did raise $9.6 million in the first quarter this year. I point out Chris Van Hollen is starting from behind, so he had to go to El Salvador to get a head start on her. Noah C. Rothman, lamb expert, but he brought the ham. Thank you, Noah. I'll be right back.